Attention, Commanders fans! The franchise is seconds away from making a historic mistake, or breaking the curse. Do you know which 26-year-old tackle the Rams prefer to keep hidden, and why signing him would save us from Jalen Carter? This is not a theory, it's blood in the water of the NFC East. But beware! Will Adam Peters fall into the trap of paying $30 million to a Pro Bowler that Baltimore discarded for being fragile? One more injury and Jaden Daniels ends up on a stretcher. Meanwhile, who is the RB from Arizona State that has scouts amazed and could light up Northwest with nightmare touchdowns? If we don't sign him, the Giants will steal him. And guess who will pay the consequences? Do you want the key to distinguish genius from career suicide? Subscribe now. I'll reveal why a cheap signing could be the steal of the century, and which star player is one medical exam away from sinking us. Attention, Washington Commanders fans! What I'm about to tell you could define the future of our franchise. Are you ready for a discussion that leaves no room for lukewarm opinions? Because we're talking about Alaric Jackson, the offensive tackle from the Rams that no one is mentioning, but should be Adam Peters' #1 priority in free agency. I'm telling you this with the same conviction that I affirm the sky is purple and gold for the Ravens. If we don't sign this man, we would be making a historic mistake. Let me give you some context. Alaric Jackson is not a marketing product or a name that shines in the headlines. He's a fighter built from the ground up. He came to the NFL as an undrafted free agent in 2021, sat on the bench, worked quietly, and when the Rams gave him the opportunity in 2023, he became a wall on the left side. Do you know what that means? That he has the grit we need in Washington. We're not talking about an immature prospect, but a guy who has already blocked for Matthew Stafford in high-pressure moments and has done so allowing only 22 pressures in 2024, the same number as Deion Dawkins, a Pro Bowler from Buffalo. Now I ask you, is it worth paying $20 million or more for a veteran like Ronnie Stanley, who has only played 33 games in the last 4 years and comes off multiple injuries, when we could have Jackson for $15 million annually? I answer you, no. It's a matter of pure pragmatism. In the NFL, availability is a skill, and Jackson has been in every snap for the Rams since he established himself as a starter. How many tackles in free agency can boast that? But this goes beyond statistics. Let's talk about identity. Dan Quinn and Adam Peters are building something here. Do we want to be the team that squanders on declining stars or the one that is forged with underestimated warriors? Jackson represents the latter. He is young, 26 years old, has no history of serious injuries, and comes with a chip on his shoulder for being ignored in the draft. That kind of mentality is contagious in a locker room. Isn't that what we need after years of mediocrity? And don't forget the economic factor. The Rams have only $12 million in cap space and must prioritize Puka Nacua. We, on the other hand, have the resources to make an aggressive offer without strangling our future. If we let Jackson slip away by clinging to glamorous names, what does that say about our management? Are we going to wait for the Eagles or the Cowboys to sign him and then get trampled on the line? Imagine Jalen Carter against an improvised tackle in Week 1. Do we really want that? Here's another layer. The offensive line is not just about protecting the quarterback. It's about setting the physical tone of the game. Jackson has a 92.3% run blocking grade, according to PFF. With Brian Robinson Jr. and a possible rookie in the backfield, isn't it essential to open consistent gaps? Plus, his 78.5 pass blocking grade puts him among the top 15 tackles in the league. How many such options are available without giving a blank check? But perhaps the most important thing is the message this signing would send. Adam Peters would be saying, here we value hard work more than fame. In a city like Washington, where fans have been suffering from empty promises for decades, that would resonate like thunder. Isn't it time for us to be shrewd instead of showy? Now, the uncomfortable question, what if we fail? I mean, what if Jackson doesn't perform as expected? Well, I remind you that even in his worst scenario, he has already proven to be a solid average in the NFL. Isn't that better than betting on an expensive veteran who could collapse at any moment? Plus, at $15 million, his contract wouldn't paralyze our future flexibility. So here's my final stance. Alaric Jackson is not an option. He is the option. If the Commanders want to make a real leap, they can't let this opportunity pass. And to you, the community, I ask, do you prefer to risk a famous name or build with a proven fighter? The answer should be obvious, but I want to hear you. Comment right now. Do you support this move or think I'm overrating Jackson? I'll read you. Let me continue with this. Adam Peters and Dan Quinn made it to the NFC Championship in their first year. Do you understand the magnitude of that? We're talking about a team that many didn't even see making the playoffs. But here's the problem. Commanders, quick success can cloud judgment. And if there's something we cannot afford right now, it's wasting capital on players who won't take us to the Super Bowl. And today we're talking about Ronnie Stanley. Now, I ask you, are you ready to pay millions for a 31-year-old LD left tackle with a medical history longer than last year's injury list? Let me tell you this. Ronnie Stanley had one good season, but before that he spent more time on the bench than protecting Lamar Jackson. If Baltimore, the team that knows his value better than anyone, lets him go, isn't it a red flag the size of the Washington Monument? Let's break down the numbers. Stanley played every game in 2024 for the first time since 2016. Do you get it? 8 years to have a complete season. And now we're supposed to trust that he'll repeat that performance at 31 with a body that's already suffered fractures, sprains, and surgeries. The NFL has no mercy for those over 30. But here's the dilemma. Commanders, we need to protect Jaden Daniels. The future of this franchise is in his feet and his arm. But is Stanley the solution? Watch out! Kevin Patra is right. Competent tackles are gold in free agency. But is Stanley really at his peak to justify a sky-high contract? Or will it be another case of paying for a name and then regretting it? Look, I respect Adam Peters. The man is a team-building genius. But, Commanders, this isn't San Francisco. There's no Trent Williams waiting in the shadows here. If we sign Stanley, IT must be for less than what the market thinks. Because every dollar spent on him is a dollar that doesn't go to strengthen the secondary, or to find a number one receiver, or even to renew Terry McLaurin. Now, let me throw this at you. Wouldn't IT be better to use that money to move up in the draft and find a young tackle? The 2025 class is loaded. Or even explore a trade for a player like Tristan Wirfs, who carries less risk. And here's what I tell you, Commanders, signing Stanley would be a gamble. But if Peters does it, he must have a contingency plan. Because if this man gets injured in week 3, then what? Do we go back to Sam Cosmi at left tackle? Or an inexperienced rookie? That would be disastrous. And here comes my final argument. If Washington pays Stanley as a top 5 at his position, it would be ignoring the signs. Where are the Ravens, who prefer to let go of Lamar Jackson's protector? Isn't that like seeing your ex with someone and thinking, does that person have something I didn't see? Now, I ask you, is it worth risking capital and future for Ronnie Stanley? Or should we look for safer options, even if less glamorous? The bombshell news, Cam Skattebo, the beast from Arizona State who dominated the college football playoffs, is on the Commanders' radar for the Combine. Yes? Really? I'm telling you this is authentic. Remember how no one expected the Commanders to be one game away from being the best in the NFL in 2024? Exactly. Just like Skattebo's Sun Devils, who were one step away from glory. But here we're not talking about coincidences, we're talking about destiny. Now I ask you, could this 22-year-old RB, with brutal strength and hands that don't forgive, be the missing piece to dominate the NFC East? Check this out. Bucky Brooks from NFL.com describes him as an old-school runner, built for the RB renaissance in the NFL. And you know what else he says? That Skattebo not only runs like a tank, but he's a killer in open space. Does that ring a bell? Brian Robinson Jr. 2.0, but with more explosion in the receiving games. And now what, Adam Peters? Are you going to let this monster slip to another team? Now, Commanders, listen up. Skattebo is not just any prospect. This guy racked up 1,356 rushing yards and 12 TDs in the Big 12, the conference where defenders eat raw meat. And yet, he did it with attitude. But here's the controversy. Can we really trust that a third-round drafted RB, because that's where he's projected, will make the difference in a team that already has Robinson and Chris Rodriguez Jr.? I think yes, but let me argue. Imagine this, Eric Bieniemy, if he's still here, with an RB who can break tackles like glass and then run a slot receiver route. What defender stops him? Skattebo is not just a power runner. He's a video game player on easy mode. And more importantly, he has that hunger, that rage we lacked on the goal line this season. Remember those failed third downs against the Cowboys? With this guy, that doesn't happen. But there's always a but. What if the combine exposes him? What if his 40-yard dash doesn't impress? What if scouts say he's too slow for the modern space? Because let me tell you, the NFL today is about speedsters, not tanks. Now I ask you, is it worth risking a day 2 pick on an RB when there are bigger holes on the O-line and secondary? Exactly. The million-dollar question. And here's my hot take. If Skitebo runs a 4.55 or less in the 40-yard and shows soft hands in the drills, hurry up, Commanders. Because this guy, with a QB like Jaden Daniels, could be the accelerator we need to reach the Super Bowl. But if the combine shows weaknesses, better look for a linebacker. What do you think, Commanders? Should we bet on Skitebo to revive our ground game, or is it better to strengthen other areas? Commanders, it's time to define the team's future. First, the question that divides the fans: risk the team's prestige with a famous name in free agency or trust a proven fighter who already knows our DNA? The decision could shape the franchise's identity for years. But let's not forget another crucial dilemma. Is Ronnie Stanley worth $1 million investment that compromises our available salary? Or should we prioritize more economical and reliable options to protect the future? There's no room for financial error here. And finally, the debate that ignites social media: is Cameron Skitebo the explosive piece missing to revolutionize our ground game, or should we first strengthen the defense or the line? The answer could define our season. What would you do in each scenario? Leave your opinion in the comments and show the NFL that Commander Nation has a voice. Subscribe today to be part of this family building the team's renaissance. Activate the bell and don't miss exclusive analysis, hot rumors, and live broadcasts where we decide together. And remember, hail to the Redskins!